Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give my top tips on spring Chinook fishing and what I do to kind of prep and get ready for the preseason. I'm going to go through my top tips that I'm going into each preseason with, and hopefully you learn something and take away from it. When you're going out, if you're going in the Willamette, you want to check the turbidity scale on the Willamette. You can go online and type in Willamette turbidity, and it'll give you a range of where the turbidity at, and that's the clarity of the water. So the reason I actually check this very frequently, and the reason you want to check that is when the turbidity is typically above like 15, 12, 15, higher than that, the river is very difficult to fish. And the reason that is because it's going to be very chock full of debris. It's going to be very cloudy and colorful, and you're just going to have your presentation. It'll be very difficult for a salmon to see your presentation. So really, you're going to need to put that bait right in front of their face if you're fishing it at higher than like 15 to 20. Now, people do catch them, especially guys that really know what they're doing, know what they're dialed in. They're going to get fish at the higher turbidity numbers, but if you want your best chance of success, I think you're looking at like 12 and below. That's going to be really clear. That's going to be good water. You're going to be able to see your main prop. Kind of look for those numbers. So I check that frequently. And, if you're a weekend warrior like me and you're just going out, you got to maximize time out. If you're a guide, you're going to be out every day. They're going to, retired guys, you're going to have a big advantage. You're going to be able to really pattern and know where those fish are holding. And if you can get bait in front of them in high turbid, you're just going to catch fish, But us guys that need to go out, on a weekend, let's just look at that turbidity number. That's what I do. And when it's lower, it's prime and it's time to go. After we're at currently mid-March, we just had a big rain event. Willamette turbidity spiked up in the 40s. When that river comes back down, it's going to be in prime shape for some fish pushing in, hopefully. So I'll keep an eye on that. But that's something you want to look for. All right, so tip number 7, one thing I really look at, I'm always watching dam counts this time of year. Again, I'm a weekend warrior fisherman, so I go when I can. And when the counts are getting higher, especially when I look at the Columbia, if the counts are around 1,000 fish a day, that's pretty good for springtime. That gives you a decent shot at getting a fish. When they're down in the 200s or less, there's fish around, but your probabilities are just going to significantly decrease. Now, anything over 1,000, I think for springers, that's decent. And then obviously above that, you want to be on the river. You wanted to be on the river like a day or two before that, but you know what I mean. So what you can do is you can actually look at the dam counts, and you can look at the past 10 years. And what that allows you to do is kind of gauge. Every year is different, but it can kind of gauge when that bulk of the run is based on the 10-year average. But again, it's dependent on temperatures. It's dependent on a lot of things. It can give you a rough idea and a good time. But like I said, if I'm fishing the Columbia, ideal scenario for springers, we're looking for 1,000 fish a day. It doesn't mean I wouldn't fish it below 1,000 fish a day, but when you're seeing those 1K plus fish a day, you're just going to have a better chance. Now, obviously, fall fishing is a totally different story, but those springers really don't flush in, flush out like the fall fish do. When the temps are warmer in the fall, they really need to acclimate to the river before they come in. So instead, fall fish might come in, they might migrate up to the Cowlitz, they might go to the Lewis, they might go up to Portland, they might make their way to the Washougal, rest in each of those tributaries all the way up. The springers, on the other hand, they may just dart in on an incoming tide and push all the way up through Portland, push in the night before, and they might be blowing through Portland the next day or 6 hours later. So because the temps are cold, they're just trying to bolt up. So that you're not going to find staging fishes easily. I think that's one reason, like springers and summers, it's a little more effective to fish on anchor depending on the tide. Because they're just blowing through. And fall fish, you'll see bigger stacks. Not to say that springers won't stack up, but fall fish, you're finding bigger concentrations kind of stacked, taking breaks in that colder water. So dam counts is a big one. Check those dam counts if you're really trying to maximize your days on the water. All right, 6 is kind of a one to take into consideration. Recently, we've had multiple years now where we've had high concentrations of smelt in the river, particularly going up to like the Sandy. So what happens when the smelt are in the river like that is we're seeing salmon getting cut open, springers with full bellies, whether they're feeding down at the mouth or even snatching them on the way up, which I know they're not supposed to feed when they get in the river, but when fishermen cut them open and they're smelting there, it raises questions to if they are feeding in the river. We just don't know. Is that a reactionary bite? It could be. I don't know. Regardless, if you're trying to create a presentation of a cup plug herring or something and you have a million smelt around, it's going to be very, very difficult to stand out. So when you hear reports, when I hear reports that there's high smelt in the river, especially in, when we're talking the Columbia for early springers, you can catch them and maybe a quick fish is a better option, but cup plug herring is just going to be a challenge. It just is. It doesn't mean you can't do it. People do it, but it's definitely going to significantly decrease your probability. Not to mention when you go out and there's a ton of fish like that and you're out Davis Bar, whatever. I mean, we were out last year, we had 6 sea lions patrolling the boat at all times. So even if you hook a fish, I mean, you're probably not getting that fish in. So something to just keep in mind. If the smelt counts are high, maybe stay off the Willamette, or, maybe try to avoid the Columbia until those smelt numbers die down. I know we want to be out there catching fish. I want to be out there right now, but the turbidity and the smelt, it's like, I don't know if there's a point. I want to put the time in, but I don't want to waste my time either. I got to maximize my days out there. All right, so pre-season, something to do. Just start going to your local stores and buying those fresh, nice-looking green label herring. Unless you're going to buy bulk, like some of the guides will just buy cases. And if you want to buy cases, do that. But what I do, I go to Buy Mart, I go to Sportsman's, Fisherman's, whatever it is, and I'll just look for the freshest green label herring. The problem I've found is that sometimes I kind of live in a smaller town, and when the season hits in full swing and I run over to Buy Mart or something, or Fisherman's or whatever, to grab green label herring, well, there's none left. Or they're all freezer burnt. And it's like, oh, crap. So I start back in like January, sometimes December, and just start buying green label herring, 2 or 3 at a time, maybe more, and just start stacking them up in my freezer and then preparing for the next season. I really don't like to use year-old herring if I have any left. I just use it for crab bait or something else. Or you can cut up chunks of it to put in your stuffer baits if you want to use it that way. But when you're if you're lucky with springers, you're getting like one opportunity every couple days in the early season, if you're lucky. And, so you want to have the best quality herring you can. So that's why, start thinking now. Don't try to rush out the last second and bulk up herring. All right, another tip that I think is really important is make new leaders pre-season. In the fall, I will reuse leaders. I'll check them to make sure that they're not frayed from the teeth, but really in spring, I want to use a brand new leader every time. And the reason for that is if you go out and you're putting typically a ton of hours on the water trying to get a springer, an early season springer especially, you just don't want to lose it because of a failed leader. If you're reusing leaders from fall season, if you're reusing leaders from last year and it has a nick in the line or it's got sun damage because you tossed it in the gunnel and you forgot about it and it's been kind of deteriorating or whatever, I mean, if you hook that fish and you get it right to the boat and it snapped because the leader fails, it just sucks. It happens, but you can really ensure that by just retying the leaders. This is an expensive sport. We can do things to make it a little cheaper, but you don't want to lose that fish at the boat because of a failed leader. So I recommend just retie your leaders, make new leaders, buy new leaders, whatever. And make sure you got new hooks or sharpened hooks. I try to reuse some hooks, especially in the fall. Man, in the spring, just use everything brand new is ideal. You just want to have every opportunity, maximize all the potentials to get those fish and get them into the boat. All right, another tip that is just kind of pre-season in general, but since springers is kind of the first, I go through all my reels. I check all my braid on my reels. I actually have my son grab the line, and he runs up the street, I run down the street, and we spool the reels all the way out and then reel them back in. Because sometimes, last year this happened a couple times, I had a couple of overlaps mid-reel and we lost a fish because of that. A really nice, probably maybe probably like a state record. I don't, probably was, I don't know, but it was big and it snapped. I'm just kidding. I don't know, but it did burn out line and it totally snapped off at 150 feet and it was a big fish, probably a 20 plus 25 pounder or something, but we lost it, and that was because the line was kind of gummed up and overlapped in the middle of the reel. So I spool those ones out. If they're bad, cut it all off. I put new line on, get it new braided back up, and that way we're not messing around. So that's just something to think about. Also, oil your reels. If just little dabs of oil in all the little joints, and get that thing lubed back up for the next year, because you don't want to lose fish because of that. You don't want to be in the middle of Springer season and realize all my reels are jacked up from last fall because I didn't wash them in the salt or whatever after they got salt all over them. Another one. This is big. This is big. I think for years I made this mistake. I think I made it for like multiple years, and it really cost me a lot of fish. Slow down with springers. I recently heard another tip that I found was extremely good, and something I don't really even think about too often is going upstream when it's colder out. Going upstream when it's colder out, because they're just moving so slow. You just barely want that presentation to be in their face. They're very less likely to turn and burn on a downhill troll. Doesn't mean they won't, but we're talking about maximizing opportunity, maximizing chances here. That's everything we're trying to do with springers. Is you might get your bait in front of 10 fish in a day, and when you're in the fall and you're getting your bait in front of thousands of fish, just simply more of them are going to chase it. But when there's just 10 to 100 fish maybe you're looking at or less, you have got to maximize your chances. So my absolute last tip for Springer season, and this one is tough. This one's tough. Been tough for me over the years. It's been tough for people, friends of mine. Don't burn yourself out. Typically they say it's 100 angler hours per fish. So with that being said, I do notes on every trip I have. I write notes. Last year we did 10 unsuccessful trips. 10. We started going really early though. I've got a little story. Years ago, I've never got a February fish. 10 years ago, we were out fishing in February. We were right under the St. John's Bridge, right under it. Had a cut plug herring, and it freaking got hammered by a springer. Started takedown going off. I was so excited. It was like mid-February too. I grabbed that line. I yanked it right out of the fish's mouth. Could feel the pop. Ever since then, I fish early a lot of years because I'm just trying to catch those early springers, and I have not been successful in February since, but it's been haunting me ever since. So I'm trying to get those February springers. But the point I'm making is, don't burn yourself out, because if you go, I like to post pictures, I make videos about stuff, but I certainly don't make videos and post pictures when I've got an empty deck. And so it's easy to see a lot of success. The few people that are having success early season is easy, especially for me, to be like, wow, I got to get out there. People are catching fish, but that's like 2 or 3 out of the 1,000 or whatever, a couple hundred that are trying. So put it back into perspective. Most people are not catching fish right now. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't go out and try. Just have those realistic expectations. I have to tell myself that all the time. Like, you're not necessarily going to go out, thinking back to fall season, it's like, oh man, we're going out, we're going to crush fish. You go out springer fishing 5 trips and you don't get anything, and you're like, crap, this is tough, man. And you're like, do I want to keep going out? Yes, keep going out, because you're going to get a fish. And it's not about catching fish. It's fun, and it's awesome getting that high quality protein. But if you're not enjoying the process, just try to remember to enjoy the process. That's what it's all about. It's better than being at work, that's for sure. And I enjoy every moment out there. Enjoy the moments we can get out. You never know. Is it you're going to be the last year we can fish, the last year you can fish, I can fish? Who knows? We got to enjoy every moment we can, because enjoy your time out there. Have fun. If you put the time and put the consistency in to springers, you're gonna get fish. Appreciate you for watching, and if you get anything valuable from this, or you got any better tips for pre-season, drop it in the comments below and let me know what you think. Stay tuned. We're gonna have more stuff. We're gonna get out springer fishing here soon, and we're going to hopefully put some fish in the box and get some good footage of that for you guys. So good luck out there. I hope to see you out there, and holler if you see us out on the water. Thanks.